LeBron James moves into territory that only he has charted. Will he and Luka chart a course to Larry O'Brien Island? Cameras catch Kevin Durant and Mike Budenholzer having words. I'll ask Matt and Haize if it's something or nothing today on Locked On NBA.
You are Locked On NBA, your daily NBA podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On NBA. Thanks so much for making us your first listen of the day. We are free. We are available wherever you get your podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Doug Branson, host of Locked On Hornets and your Shot Clock Sherpa, guiding you through the NBA's biggest stories every day with the help of Locked On's local experts. And with me are two of Locked On's premier national NBA experts from the Locked On Nuggets podcast and senior NBA writer for the Action Network. He's the man of 1,000 podcasts. It's Matt Moore.
The Cavs were tied with 5 minutes to go with the Bulls and won by 22. What is this team?
Well, no better person to ask than the host of the Locked On Bulls podcast and our Prince of Petty, it's Haize.
I can tell you what that team is. That team is a team that is actively tanking. That's what that team is.
Tanking out loud. We're going to get some words from Sean Woodley of Locked On Raptors, and he talks about the difference between tanking quietly and tanking out loud. So we'll get to that a little bit later. But first, let's go to LeBron James, who scored his 50,000th point between the regular season and the playoffs in last night's game against the New Orleans Pelicans. He wasn't the only one in purple and gold, putting himself in the record book. Here's Locked On Lakers with more.
LeBron James, he cracks the 50,000 point barrier for the playoffs and regular season combined, which is a mind-boggling amount of points to score. And meanwhile, Andy, Luka Doncic, who just keeps getting more and more comfortable. I think, as LeBron said after the game, not just on the floor, but with everything, just more acclimated to LA, putting a little more distance behind the shock of the trade and getting a little healthier and all of that stuff. He joined a very exclusive club on Tuesday night. Jerry West, Magic Johnson, LeBron, and now Luka in only his 9th game. Those are the 4 guys in Lakers history who have notched 30 points and 15 assists in one game.
All right, we'll get to Luka here in just a second. But first, Matt, your thoughts on James continuing to break his own records and putting himself in territory that maybe no one will be able to catch in terms of points scored.
Yeah, which is pretty stunning for a guy that's never necessarily been thought of or thought of himself even necessarily as a scorer first, but as a basketball player. I think we're out of words for how amazing LeBron is. Like, we're just out of words for it. I don't have any other words for it. To do this at this age, to be able to produce like this, to be as efficient as he is, to impact the game in so many ways. I didn't think it was possible for a player to play this well this late in their career for this long a stretch of time, spanning literally decades.
What LeBron has been able to do in this season, the fact that it looks like he slowed down some, and I think if you look at the year to year, it's hard to kind of understand. Like LeBron, if you look at 5 years ago to now, he's definitely slowed down some, but that doesn't matter. Like, he's playing an amazing level at this age. And it looks like LeBron, I can see LeBron easily playing another 3 to 5 years with the way that he's playing out there. I don't know how effective he's going to be, but I can see him doing that. And so LeBron and the way that he's able to play and the fact that him and Luka, you can see that their chemistry is building. This is a very, very dangerous Lakers team.
So he's averaging nearly 25 points a game, 8 rebounds, 8.5 assists on 52% shooting. He's led the Lakers out of the wilderness. I asked you both last week if you were ready to have the first team All-NBA discussion about LeBron James, and neither of you seemed very interested. I'm wondering now, are you more interested in his case over Jason Tatum? Matt, you're shaking your head no.
No. I think so. I get really hung up on this. Do we care about what's happening right now, or do we care about the entire season? Like we had conversations about like, man, LeBron looks washed. He does not look good earlier this season. How you play in October and November matter. Those games counted too. There were Lakers podcasts I listened to in November that said, quote, I'm done with this team. They're not going anywhere. And they've dug themselves out of it. And LeBron's been a big part of that. But being good every single month of the season matters. Jason Tatum's been great every month of the season. We need to reward guys for being consistently great from start until finish and not get caught up with recency bias. The inability of people to really understand the effect that recency bias has on us drives me crazy, especially as somebody who does pay attention from opening night to last night of the season. The players that have contributed every single night deserve better.
Yeah, I agree with Matt here. If you're able, the recency thing does play a factor, and I think it plays a factor in the conversation. Like, we can be prisoners of the moment now and what players are doing amazingly now, but if we're talking about awards, you have to look at the full body of work over the course of that season. LeBron, he's going to make an all-NBA team, but I'm not ready to say an all-NBA first team.
Okay, let's move to Luka. He gets 17 in the first quarter of last night's game. It looks like he's trying on defense. Here's the only question that I know how to ask. What hell hath Nico Harrison unleashed on the Western Conference, Haize?
It's going to be really, really fun to watch those bottom tier teams here for the rest of the way, because you have teams that are avoiding it. I don't really know if anybody even really wants it. So to say, like, Nico Harrison is the gift that keeps on giving for content creators. Let's just say that.
The Lakers have a path, I think, to the finals. I don't think they can beat Cleveland or Boston. I think that's probably where the run ends. Like, I've started really thinking about teams in terms of how many rounds can you win? Can you win 1, 2, 3, or 4 rounds? I think the Lakers are a 3-round team, but they can win 3 rounds. I think that they are if the defense is going to play like this, and they're at a peak right now. So, like, the question here is just like, are they going to continue this level of play? It's hard to maintain the level of play that they're at with the talent that they have for that duration. If you're like, but they have LeBron and Luka, that's got nothing to do with the defense, like nothing to do with it. LeBron's been great, but he's going to get tired. If they can keep it up, then they can make a run all the way to the finals, and that's probably where it ends. And that's a huge accomplishment that sets them up for next year. Like, what's, I think, got to be dispiriting for every other team in the Western Conference, it's just like, yeah, they might make the finals this year, and then they're going to get better, and then they're going to get better, and then they're going to get better. Nico Harrison didn't just ruin basketball for his franchise and his city. Like, he's, I think, really impacted the shape of the Western Conference over the next decade. I've always said that, like, look, everyone was like, well, it's gonna be Victor. It's gonna be Victor. Victor's gonna be in the conversation, but Luka was gonna be the face of the Western Conference, I think, for the next decade. And now he's in the one place where you literally don't have to be good to get to succeed. The Lakers didn't do anything to get Luka Doncic. They didn't have good trade assets. They just got him. They'll get another one. Like, the whole thing, the Lakers are absolutely, I think, going to dominate. I asked this question: what's the over/under on titles that Luka Doncic wins with the Lakers, Haize? 2.
I think I said it at 2, and that's just because how the other, like, Wemby growing. You got still the OKC Thunder there. The Houston Rockets are on the rise, but I definitely think the over/under has to start at 2, and it could be well over that. When you talk about the changing landscape of the Western Conference with Luka now in LA, I had said for the beginning of this podcast, how many times did I say the Lakers are waiting for somebody to bail them out? Nobody's coming to bail them out. Well, Nico Harrison bailed them out. And now they're going to be players, and there are already going to be free agents that wanted to come to just play in LA. Now you get to play with Luka on top of that. Yeah, man.
And look, Lakers fans get real salty and love it. Like, you just hate the Lakers and blah, blah. And I'm like, look, this is the problem. No other team, this is not an even field. No other team benefits from this. And they do it year after year after year. But that's how it is. It's a Lakers world, and every other NBA team is just living in it because of Nico Harrison.
And Matt, do you like that number 2 as the over/under? And would it be affected at all if the OKC Thunder failed to win the championship or make the finals this season?
Yeah, so for me, it's 3.5. I think it's legitimately 3.5. Think of it this way. This first couple of years when Luka's still in this, like, early part of his prime, you probably said it at 1. The middle of his prime, that peak time from 28 to 32, that's probably, you got to set that at 1. Then you look at late career, probably 1. And so the question is, can they rack up 2 in a row or 2 in 3 years here in any of those eras? You have 3 eras of real title contention with Luka Doncic: his early prime, his mid prime, his late prime. And you have the ability to win titles in all 3 of those. I set the number of titles for Luka with the Lakers at 3.5.
Final word?
I'll ask that later. I'll save it for Friday. Yeah.
Okay, great. Coming up on the Locked On NBA podcast, a lot more to get to. The Phoenix Suns, there was a little dust up between Kevin Durant and Mike Budenholzer. Plus, is Devin Booker untouchable in Phoenix? I want to talk double big lineups in Oklahoma City, in New York. We'll hear from Locked On Knicks as well. That's all coming up. Stack Show here on Locked On NBA. Stick with us. Today's episode of Locked On NBA is brought to you by OpenPhone. Running a small business means wearing a lot of hats. And I should know, I've got a lot of hats behind me. A personal phone becomes a business phone, and suddenly customer calls are coming in day and night. And as a team grows, managing everything with just one number becomes almost impossible. That's where OpenPhone comes in. The #1 business phone system designed to keep work and personal life separate. For just $15 a month, the cost of a few coffees, you get complete transparency and visibility into everything happening with a business phone number. OpenPhone works through an app on a phone or computer and integrates with tools like HubSpot and hundreds of others. It also uses AI-powered call transcripts and summaries, providing a rundown of calls and action items the second that they end. Missed a call? No problem. Automated messages are sent directly to customers, ensuring that no opportunity is missed. Right now, OpenPhone is offering 20% off the first 6 months at openphone.com/LockedOnNBA. That's OpenPhone.com/LockedOnNBA for 20% off 6 months. OpenPhone.com/LockedOnNBA, and existing numbers with another service can be ported over at no extra charge. More Locked On NBA ahead. Thanks for making Locked On NBA your first listen every day. The Phoenix Suns completed a massive 19-point fourth-quarter comeback against the LA Clippers last night, thanks to, let me check my notes here, Colin Gillespie. Colin Gillespie, that's crazy. He poured in 10 fourth-quarter points, but the moment that everyone wanted to talk about came before the comeback started, and it was between Kevin Durant and head coach Mike Budenholzer. Let's go to Locked On Suns for more.
Cameras captured a moment between KD and Bud getting a little irritable with one another at one point during the down stretch of this game in the middle. And then later, Burn City Sports and 12 News both were able to capture the follow-up where Durant and Budenholzer came together again, got on the same page, patted each other on the back and kept it going business as usual. Katie was obviously not too pleased with the fact that the national TV cameras picked up the bad part and not everyone saw the makeup and the, compromise and communication that happened afterward.
So as he mentions there, KD and Budenholzer tried to do a little cleanup after this game, saying that it was just kind of part of their process. Something or nothing, Matt, Budenholzer and KD's sideline tiff.
It's nothing. This happens all the time. And KD's a fiery guy, and KD led that comeback. Honestly, I'm not even kidding. This was the most encouraging moment of the Suns season for me. KD got fired up, cared so much about winning this game that he's pissed off at his coach. He comes back, he talks through it, he works through it, and he goes out there and he wins them the game alongside Colin Gillespie. That's the kind of leadership that honestly, they've been lacking and needing. They needed this. Mm-hmm. They needed this. Maybe they just turn around and they lose 3 of their next 5, Haize. But I took that's a big moment that I circle as far as there are these moments that can turn around your season, and I'm not ruling it out. That might be the one.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you need a little bit of conflict for everybody to get fired up and shows that they do still care, right, about the rest of the season, and that is what that moment could be. I'm not going to read too much into it as far as negatively. Some of that stuff happens more than what's reported or more than we see, and most teams are perfectly fine with it. There is a little bit of, because recently it came out that the Suns could look to move on from Coach Bud maybe at season's end, so maybe if you want to read into it, you can pair that with it. But overall, I'll say this, the Suns, they sit right now at 3 games behind the Dallas Mavericks that just lost Kyrie Irving for that final play-in spot. Get fired up now. If you really want to try to go for the playoff spot, it's now there for you to try to take it. So,
And everyone understands the stakes, right? I mean, there are opportunities opening up for a play-in berth, and everyone sort of understands it's now or never. So we may see something from the Phoenix Suns. Let us know what you think on YouTube, youtube.com/@LockedOnNBA. I want to get a little nerdy here for a minute. The New York Knicks, they fell to the Golden State Warriors last night. Matt Moore, yes, rubbing the hands together. He's ready to get nerdy. The New York Knicks fall to the Golden State Warriors last night. No Karl Anthony Towns for the Knicks as he was out for personal reasons. Locked On Knicks host Gavin Shaw is looking ahead to the postseason and asking if a double big lineup with Cat and the newly healthy Mitchell Robinson can help or hurt New York. Let's take a listen to that.
For trying it is I don't believe Tom Thibodeau is necessarily the coach to get the full ceiling out of what a 5-out offense could be, and that's because of his inability to maximize Josh Hart on the offensive end through scheme and find ways to ensure he's treated as a shooter or he's treated as someone who has to be guarded. And if that's the case, and we just accept that, we should look to, all right, then how can we maximize the other end of the floor? And if the offense is just going to devolve into like, hey, in the most important moments, we're just giving the ball to Jalen Brunson, let him cook because he's incredibly good at that. Why not have Mitchell Robinson insulating your defense, having your DB as good as possible? And we know that is an area that Tom Thibodeau can maximize and has maximized. And we see by the template in Minnesota that the ceiling is really, really high with Karl Anthony Towns playing next to another big. And there's a lot of evidence to suggest he will defend a lot better and be much less of a target for opposing defenses if he's playing the 4 instead of the 5.
All right, let's get nerdy. Let's talk some X's and O's. Do you buy the Knicks 2 big lineup idea, Haize?
Yes, I actually think I guess maybe one of the few people that I think the 2 big lineup can work. I think that's the key for them in the playoffs to try. I won't say the key. That's unfair. That's a bit of an exaggeration on my part. But I do think that is something that could separate and help them get over any hump that they can see in the playoffs. They have to try to figure out this Karl Anthony Towns, Mitchell Robinson minutes together. If they can, I actually look more favorable in what the Knicks can do in the playoffs.
I think it's important to have the tool in your bag. I think there are going to be lineups where it can work, and I think it could be the optimum lineup in a lot of situations. I actually think it might work better, and because of some of the stuff that Gavin talked about. I think it's real matchup dependent, though, right? Because if you're facing the Cavaliers, they're not just going to let you put Mitchell Robinson on Jared Allen and then just like, okay, cool, whatever. They will move Jared Allen and space him out a little bit, even though it's like, well, you can't space out Jared Allen. Yeah, you can. They did that last year where all you do is you space Allen out and have him crash the glass. So that's what you kind of do there. And you get Robinson out and then you attack downhill with Cat trying to guard Evan Mobley. So that's like a concern on the Cavaliers side. From the Celtics standpoint, the 2 big lineup is not switchable. So it doesn't necessarily help you there. That's kind of the problem. The Cat thing. The problem with the Knicks versus the Celtics is very specifically the combination of Jalen Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns. You can get away with one. You can't get away with both. They will find a way to exploit that. So trying to manage that, I think, is going to be big. But if they're trying to battle the Bucks, if they're trying to battle the Pistons, if they're trying to battle even, I think, the Pacers a little bit, I think that 2 big lineup can work.
All right, so let me pair this with Mark Daigneault, head coach of the Oklahoma City Thunder. Let me pair this with his comments last week when he was asked about the Thunder's double big lineup featuring both Chet Holmgren and Isaiah Hartenstein. He essentially said that part of his job is to get the best players on the floor and that they were going to use the rest of the regular season to examine how well that particular 2 big lineup can work. So when you look at OKC and when you look at the Knicks, Matt, which of those double big lineups do you think has a better shot of being an advantage for their team, whether they stick with it long term or not? Just a better tool in that team's tool belt.
I mean, it's Holmgren and Hartenstein, then there's no question. It's not even close because of the defensive aptitude of both of those players. Like, this is the whole thing, is you're trying to find guys who are playable on both offense and defense. And Cat is playable on offense and is such a big name that he has to play. But there are going to be situations where he's just going to be a straight up liability. There's no situation with Isaiah Hartenstein and Chet Holmgren together as a liability. You can space them out. You can space Chet out. Hartenstein can battle like a Lakers matchup. You like the matchup of Jackson Hayes defending of Isaiah Hartenstein defending Jackson Hayes and then having Chet Holmgren maybe play LeBron. That's okay. Like, that's all right. You can work with that. There's all these kind of optimum lineups you can build with the Thunder's combination of bigs. It hasn't worked out great yet, but they also don't have to use it. Again, this is all about, it's not about, you can find an optimum, a best lineup, but that best lineup isn't going to work in all instances. You need to be able to not have to play it. And that is much more important, and OKC is in a much better position there.
I like OKC's just overall, not only their coaching better, the lineups better, and of course Chet and Isaiah Hartenstein. I trust more in the playoffs because they're both kind of more versatile. Like Mitchell Robinson is good at a couple of things, right? Really, really good at it. Yep. Whereas Chet and Isaiah Hartenstein are both good at a lot of things that are important to winning basketball games. So I think having those two guys is always going to have a higher ceiling than what the Knicks double big lineup is. And like I said, they still got Shea. So overall, like, he's just going to make everything work anyway.
I just realized something really ironic, which is that you want to know where the double big lineup for New York would be most valuable? In a finals matchup versus OKC. That's like the one matchup where it makes the most sense and would actually counter their two big lineup the best.
Is that possible? Like, what percentage chance do you give that finals matchup?
I can't get there. They're not going to be able, they can't contain Boston's threes. There's no way that they're going to be able to avoid Boston. They're not going to slide down to 4. They're not going to be able to move up. Cavaliers have killed them too, but the Boston Celtics in particular, they do not have the formula to beat Boston. And I don't see any team knocking off Boston in the 3-6. So Pacers would be interesting, but unless somebody takes out Boston, until Boston is out of the playoffs, the Knicks playoff hopes are dead on arrival.
All right, we'll have to just keep dreaming about our quad big boys final. Maybe one day. Coming up on the Locked On NBA podcast, it's March, which means there are teams getting serious about the postseason, and there are teams getting serious about being unserious about getting ready for next season. So I want to play a game of go or no. Should teams be going for it, or should they be not going for it? That's coming up on Locked On NBA. Today's episode of Locked On NBA is brought to you by BetterHelp. Who's in your support system? We all need people to lean on, friends, family, mentors, but even the strongest leaders and athletes know that asking for help makes them better. Therapy is one of the best ways to build that support system. It's not just for tough times. It helps you set boundaries, develop coping skills, and become the best version of yourself. I've seen firsthand how valuable it is to have that kind of support, whether it's for managing stress, working through challenges, or just improving every day. And with BetterHelp, it's easier than ever. Their online platform connects you with over 30,000 licensed therapists so that you can find the right fit and switch anytime at no extra cost. Build your support system with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA. More Locked On NBA ahead. Thanks again for making Locked On NBA your first listen every day. Beware the Ides of March. It's a time in the NBA schedule where we can get a lot of fake scores as certain teams pivot to rebuild. Others prepare their teams for a long second season. I want to play a little game of go or no here. I'm going to give Matt and Haize a scenario, and they are going to tell me if the team should go for it or no. Alert, alert, don't do it. So our first go or no, we're going back to the OKC Thunder. Should the Thunder go after the Cavs record and get home court throughout the playoffs? That was the topic on today's episode of Locked On Thunder, and here is their answer.
And I think the Thunder are going to do the same just based on what we know about them. They're going to play conservatively with this. And I don't think that, I mean, obviously you want to have a game 7 at your place in the finals where it would matter, but overall, I think if you have one series, hypothetically, if you get to the finals, I don't think that's the worst. I would be more concerned about if it was Boston who was number 1, but Cleveland it's not a situation that just frightens me all that much, although we saw the Thunder lose on the road there. I think the Thunder should really sort of just play conservatively and really value trying to get the most out of these units with Hartenstein and Chet and sort of finding the chemistry there, and just valuing health for guys like Caruso, Chet, Hartenstein.
So, Matt, the Thunder only one game back of the Cavaliers. Should they go for it or no?
Never go for it. Never, ever, ever, ever go for it. There's too much of a cost. You see it pretty consistently. What winds up happening is if you're so focused on getting the regular season wins, then you get away from your process. And if your process, and the process isn't just about how you play, it's about minutes, it's about rotations. And you wind up overexerting yourself, and just these little things can drag you down. You need to be in the best position possible to make a playoff run. You're an all-time great team by the numbers, but you're so inexperienced. You have to put yourself in the best position. You can win the title, and that opportunity is way more important than being able to catch the Cavaliers. You can go on the road and steal game 1. You can do that. You know you can. You're good enough. No reason to push for the record.
Yeah, I can't think of a single situation in which pushing for the record ended up actually working out. Like, you don't want to risk injury. You want to pace yourself. At this point in the time, it is about being conservative and just making sure you're healthy for the playoffs. You got the record. You're going to be the number one seed in the Western Conference. You got to trust the team that you have and how good you've been over the course of the season. I don't think they should push to try to have a better record than the Cavs this year.
All right, next go or no, the Toronto Raptors have won 2 games in a row and are only 4 games back of the final play-in spot in the Eastern Conference. Should they go for that spot or stick with their rebuild plan? Here's Locked On Raptors with the team's mindset and the realities of the schedule the rest of the way.
This season, I think, has done a really good job of towing the line and just kind of saying, yeah, this is development year. Every time he's asked about wins, losses, who's playing, all that stuff, it's a development year. This is always a rebuild. This was always year one of a rebuild. I think the Raptors are handling it about as well as you could for now, right? We'll see what happens down the stretch when they play the easiest schedule ever conceived over a 20-game stretch of basketball. It's comical how easy the schedule is down the stretch. The Raptors could try to lose a lot of games and still win more than half of the games that remain just because the teams they are playing are experts in sucking out loud.
All right, So the easy schedule makes this really interesting, right? Should the Raptors stay the course, meaning should they just continue to play the same guys, continue to compete to build, long-term culture, even if it means going to the play-in?
Well, playing the same guys. Did you see that lineup they rolled out for the final possession in the game winner over the Magic last night, Doug?
No, I didn't. Please inform me.
Okay. They rolled out a 5-man lineup of entirely bench guys, all bench guys, and Jacoby Walters somehow still hit a contested 28-foot three, because that's where the Magic live now, in the bad place.
Jacoby didn't get the memo.
They tanked out loud last night. That was a loud tank by the Toronto Raptors, and it still didn't work. The problem is, Barnes and RJ Barrett are a little bit too good. I am skeptical of how good this Raptors team is. I think they're a long way from good, but they're also a long way from bad. They are very much in that mid place. They can make the play-in tournament. I don't know what that does for you. I don't know. You win and you make the playoffs. Why? So you can get stomped by Cleveland? You need to have a reasonable, we can do this. And I cannot get there with the Raptors. So I do think they need to find a way. Take a good look at Scotty Barnes' hamstring. Make sure there's nothing wrong with the hangnails on RJ Barrett. Make sure there's no neck pain with Emmanuel Quickly, and find a way to tank this out. It's going to be tough, but I always have confidence the teams can find a way to lose.
But Haize, if they do that, if they do start, because it's one thing to being in a 1 or 2 possession game and then doing some shenanigans there, and then saying, okay, we're going to take this player, find an injury, and not play them the rest of the way. Is there a danger that you don't give yourself an opportunity to do, say, what the Detroit Pistons have done this season, which is have a massive turnaround if you go that way?
Yeah, that is that risk, but here's the thing. Go for it, mainly because I need them just to win 5 more games than the Chicago Bulls the rest of the way so they can take the last play-in spot. Selfishly, I need them to go for it. Listen, I don't need them to make the play-in. No, get eliminated. I don't trust. If you give Billy Donovan just a reason to try to go for it in the play-in tournament, he will. I need them just 5 more games in the Bulls. Whatever happens, just win 5 more games in the Bulls the rest of the way. But no, the lack of selfishness of it, there's no reason for them to try to go for it. Play hard, play your guys through 3.5 quarters of the game, but do exactly what you did last night, because there's just no point. There's no point in going in and playing the play-in tournament. I get why it was created, but I think that some teams, and I think it's starting to change, have convinced themselves that they're a lot closer than what they are because they made the play-in. Like a few years ago, we wouldn't be talking about any of these teams having chances for anything. They just need to keep the course, tank it out.
Last lineup for the Raptors over the last 137: Jamal Sheed, Jacoby Walter, Jared Rhoden, AJ Lawson, and Orlando Robinson.
Oh, That was an almost all J lineup if you count AJ.
Very
Orlando
close.
Robinson.
Very close. Mavs legend AJ Lawson, more wins lately than the Mavericks.
All right, look it up. What's his middle name? What's Orlando Robinson's middle name? Someone look that up while I do this next read.
Okay.
Final go or no. Zion Williamson continues to put up incredible numbers in Pelicans' 20-point losses, including that loss to the Los Angeles Lakers. Today on Locked On Pelicans, Jake Madison makes the case that New Orleans must keep building around Zion Williamson. Let's take a listen to that.
The net rating differential when he's on the court versus not is plus 14.4. They're better 10 points offensively with him on the court. That's the 96th percentile per cleaning the glass. They limit opponents by about 4.4 points per 100 possessions. On the defensive side of the ball, look, he's never going to be an elite defender, but that puts him at the 82nd percentile, that their defense is better with him on the court. That is saying something. He's committed on that side of the ball like we've never seen before. And when you watch the way he was finishing in this game, getting to the rim, layups, dunking, beating LeBron James, beating double teams, passing out at the right times to do it, it's a really phenomenal performance.
Okay, Haize, go or no? Should the Pelicans go all in on a build around Zion Williamson?
No. Hell no. No. Like, I get what the numbers are telling you about on and off, but you know what those numbers don't factor in? How often he's not on the court because he's not healthy. So I get it. The numbers are great. We know that Zion, when he's able to play, the talent that he is, but you can't bet on him to be on the court. So no, they should not be planning their future around Zion, in my opinion.
I will ask this because had this thought yesterday. Is reliability and availability more important than any other thing in the NBA now? It used to be like availability is the best skill, right? But we didn't actually mean that. We didn't mean that. You want them to be great players. It doesn't matter if you're really available, if you're just like mediocre. Jason Tatum is like he's a mediocre superstar. Does that make sense? Like among superstars, he's just kind of like, he's mid. He's not like DeMar DeRozan, Brandon Ingram. He's well above that range. He's like a top 5 guy, but he's also not Luka, Jokic, Giannis, LeBron peak, Steph Curry, that level. We're never going to get that. But Tatum's always available. You just would rather have it. Zion Williamson at his peak could be way beyond the impact and player that Jason Tatum is in terms of what he's able to do on the floor. Way beyond. Tatum's more available. He's just consistent. He's just more reliable. I think you have to factor that in when we look at how to build teams. You got to start with, can your guy play? Can your guy play every night? 82 games and then the playoffs. I don't know that anything else matters now. It really is. That might be the number one thing you got to start with and then go from there. Don't worry about talent. Worry about availability first. Doug, are you ready for this?
Yes.
His actual name is Orlando Robinson Jr.
Count it. We're counting it. That's great. All J lineup. Keep it up, Raptors, or don't unless you want to make the play-in. All right, final take here and final go or no. The Golden State Warriors keep going to the win column. They're 9-1 with Jimmy Butler. Go or no, the Warriors' path to an NBA Finals win. They do the whole thing. Can they go there, or is there no path? Very quickly, Haize.
Yeah, of course there's a path. How realistic that path is a different question. I could sit here and cook up a path for you in which it would happen, but I don't know if it will. So, yeah, yes and no.
The Lakers and Warriors can't both make miracle runs to the NBA Finals. We can't both have them go. You got to choose between the two. You get one of the two fading superstars in their twilight of their careers. I'll go with the Lakers instead because I got Luka. I don't see it for the Warriors. They're dangerous. I got to see the matchups, though. I don't have enough information to be able to answer right now.
Now, watch that be the Western Conference Finals.
Yeah,
since Matt said
Warriors, Lakers.
Well, yeah, because I would love to do a conversation in the future on the worst matchup for OKC if they get the Lakers or the Warriors, but we'll have to save that for another episode. We're on every day, so we've got plenty to talk about. If you like what you heard today, subscribe to Locked On NBA wherever you get podcasts, including on YouTube. Thanks for making Locked On NBA your first listen every day. Enjoy tonight's action, be kind to each other, and we're going to see you right back here tomorrow on Locked On NBA.